Did I ever tell you guys the one about the Irish girl who runs away from home? I feel like we need an Irish joke in honor of Chuck Connors. This is Chuck Connors' night. So this Irish guy's daughter disappears. She doesn't come home for 5 years. She finally comes home and her dad cusses her out. Where you been all this time? Why didn't you write? What were you doing? You know what you put your mum through? They call it mum in Ireland. Well, the girl's crying. She says, Dad, I'm so sorry. I became a prostitute. And the dad says, what? Go back to where you came from. I don't ever want to see you again. And the girl says, okay, Dad, I will, but I'm going to leave all the stuff I brought for you. I have some fur coats for Mom, and I have a deed to this mansion I bought, and I have a savings account for 5 million euros, and I also got a gold Rolex for my little brother, and for you, there's a limited edition Mercedes outside, and if you want it, there's a yacht. I parked it on the Riviera. And so her dad thinks for a minute, and he says, tell me again how you got this money? And the girl says, I became a prostitute. And Dad says, oh, Jesus, you scared me for a minute. I thought you said Protestant. Come give your old man a hug. That actually reminds me of the one about the man who comes home from work and he's greeted by his wife. And she's dressed in spiked high heels and lingerie. And she says, tie me up, sweetie. You can do anything you want. And so he ties her up and goes golfing. Man goes into a bar. Man goes into a bar and he orders a drink. The bartender is a robot. So the robot serves this perfectly prepared cocktail. And then the robot says, what's your IQ? And the man says, 150. And so the robot proceeds to make conversation about global warming and quantum physics and nanotechnology and string theory and Jungian psychoanalysis. And the customer is very impressed. But he decides, you know, I'm going to test that robot. So he walks out of the bar, turns around, comes back in for another drink. Robot serves the perfect cocktail, and then he says, what's your IQ? This time the man says, about 100. So immediately the robot starts talking about football, NASCAR, baseball, supermodels, fast food, guns, and enormous hooters. Now the guy's really impressed, so he leaves the bar again, he turns around, he decides to test the robot one more time. So he goes back in, he gets the perfect cocktail, and the robot says, what's your IQ? And the man says, it's only about 50, I think. Robot says, so are you going to vote for Trump again? So did I tell you guys the one about the history professor and the psychology professor at the nudist camp? The history professor and the psychology professor are sitting on a sun deck at a nudist resort. And the history professor turns to the psychology professor and he says, have you read Marx? And the psychology professor says, yeah, I think it's from the wicker chairs. You have to think about it. Girl goes into her doctor's office for a checkup. As she takes off her blouse, the doctor notices a big red H on her chest. He says, how'd you get that mark on your chest? And she says, oh, my boyfriend went to Harvard and he's so proud of it that he never takes off his Harvard sweatshirt, even when we make love. So I guess it leaves an impression. A couple days later, another girl comes in for a checkup, takes off her blouse. There's a big Y on her chest. How'd you get that mark on your chest? Asked the doctor. Oh, my boyfriend went to Yale and he's so proud of it he never takes off his Yale sweatshirt, even when we make love. A couple days later, another girl comes in for a checkup. As she takes off her blouse, the doctor notices a big green M on her chest. So the doctor says, you have a boyfriend who went to Michigan? And the girl says, no, but I have a girlfriend at Wisconsin. Why do you ask? I was watching The Bachelor the other night, and it reminded me of this guy in Arkansas who was wanting to get married, but he was having trouble choosing among 3 likely candidates to marry. So he decides to give each woman a present of $5,000 and watch what they do with the money. So the first woman does a total makeover. She goes to a beauty spa, she gets her hair done, new makeup, buys several outfits, joins a spa, gets toned, tells him she's done all this to be more attractive for him because she loves him so much. And he's fairly impressed by that. Second woman, she goes shopping to buy him a bunch of gifts. She gets him a new set of golf clubs, walk-in humidor for his cigars, some expensive clothes, and she presents all this stuff to him, and she says she spent all the money on him because she loves him so much, and he's fairly impressed by that. The third woman invests the money in the stock market. She earns several times that $5,000 back. She gives him back his $5,000. She reinvests the rest in a joint account, and then she tells him she wants to save for their future because she loves him so much. And the man is very impressed by that. So he thought for a long time about what each woman had done with the money, and then he married the one with the biggest boobs. Did I tell you the one, I was thinking of this one, did I tell you the one about the husband and wife who don't trust each other? So the woman doesn't come home one night, and her husband wants to know why. And she says, well, she slept over at a girlfriend's house. So the man calls his wife's 10 best friends. None of them know anything about it. So he cuts her off, he calls her a liar, he makes her suffer for days. A little while later, the husband doesn't come home one night. So in the morning, the wife wants to know why not. He tells her, well, I slept over at a buddy's house. So the woman calls her husband's 10 best friends. 8 of them confirm that he slept over, 2 of them claim he's still there. Have I told you guys the one about the man who was interviewing for a job as a deputy sheriff in East Texas? So the sheriff doing the interview says, well, your qualifications all look good, but we have an attitude test that you have to take before we can accept you. So the guy says, okay. So the sheriff slides a service pistol across the desk and he says, take this pistol, go out and shoot 6 illegal aliens, 6 meth dealers, 6 Muslim extremists, and a rabbit. And the guy says, why the rabbit? And the sheriff says, great attitude. When can you start?